Hello, today I'm going to be checking out the latest mid-tower case from Corsair. This is the Frame 4500X and it is available from today in both black and white, starting at $189.99 US. Now for that price you're getting a version of the case that comes with 3 reverse blade ARGB fans on the side, or you can pay an extra $70 and get the upgraded version that I have got here. It comes with the Corsair iCUE link hub installed at the back, as well as upgraded fans on the side that will connect into that. So is this case worth your hard-earned money? Let's dive in and take a closer look. So when you take a look at the Frame 4500X, I think the main standout feature is the single piece of curved tempered glass on the front and side of the case. To remove it, you need to pull it slightly forward, and then you can slide it to the side and lift up to remove it. Our other side panel is split into 2. To remove the solid bit, you simply flip it out from the top and then lift up and away. Next to it, we've got a perforated panel to act as a source of airflow for our side-mounted fans. It can simply be unclipped from the bottom and then lifted up and away to remove it. Taking a look at the back of this panel, we've got an integrated sheet of mesh to act as a dust filter. Taking a look at our front I/O, we've got a power button, a combined headphone and microphone jack, 2 USB Type-A ports and a single Type-C port. To remove our case's top panel, we've got 2 captive thumb screws at the back. Once these have been loosened, the panel can be pulled backwards and lifted up to remove it. Taking a look at the back of the panel we've just removed, you'll notice there's no included dust filters and the holes in the top are actually quite large. While this may work great for airflow, it won't be so great for keeping dust out of your PC when it's powered off. If you're planning to go with a custom loop, you'll be pleased to see we've got a cutout for a fill port on the top and a cutout for a drain port on the bottom. At the top of the case you're going to be able to mount up to 3 120 or 2 140mm fans, or up to a 360 or 280mm radiator. You're going to mount your fans and radiators using Corsair's InfiniRail system, where it's really straightforward to change between 120 and 140mm mounting slots. On the side of the case we've got 3 120mm fans pre-installed. These are reverse blade fans, so they're going to be bringing plenty of cool air into your build. If you prefer on the side, it is possible to mount up to 2 140mm fans or up to a 360 or 280mm radiator. The side fans are installed on a removable bracket. There's one screw at the top holding it in place, and it is possible to mount this bracket in 2 different positions. At the rear of the case you're able to mount a single 120 or 140mm fan or radiator, while on the power supply side you can fit up to 2 120mm fans, and at the bottom of the case it's up to a single 120mm fan, and you're going to secure these to the bottom of the case with the included long screws. At the bottom of the case we've got a full-length dust filter which can be pulled out from the side for cleaning. In terms of motherboard support, the case supports motherboards up to E-ATX in size, and you can see we've got the additional cutouts required for back connector ATX and back connector micro ATX motherboards. If you want to go with a CPR cooler, the maximum height supported is up to 185mm. It is possible to remove the motherboard tray, although I imagine most people will find it easier to install your motherboard to the tray in the case. In the case accessory box you get a magnetic cable cover which goes over towards the right hand side of the motherboard, helping hide any cables. At the rear of the case we've got 7 horizontal expansion slot brackets, and in terms of graphics card support, the maximum length supported is up to 460mm. Corsair are keen to make sure your graphics card is well supported with the included GPU support bracket. If you want to mount your graphics card in the vertical position, the expansion slot brackets at the back can be rotated round by 90 degrees, and you can use the included standoffs to mount your riser card to the bottom of the case, and there's 2 different positions you can mount this in. It is important to say that the riser cable you're going to need to mount your graphics card in the vertical position isn't included with the case. Moving over to the other side of the case, and cable routing space looks to be really good at up to 34mm, and we've got plenty of Velcro cable straps all around the motherboard, and as well in the case accessory box we've got plenty of cable ties. Behind the motherboard we've got a drive tray, and on this you are able to mount up to 2 2.5-inch drives or a single 3.5-inch drive. If you get the version of the case that comes with the iCUE link hub, it's going to be installed on this plate. You are still able to mount a 2.5-inch drive to the side of the hub, but if you want to install a 3.5-inch drive or 2 2.5-inch drives, you're going to have to move this hub to somewhere else in the case. So the case supports full-sized ATX power supplies. I can't see the maximum supported length in the reviewer's guide, but the distance to the front of the power supply stride is 260mm, and obviously you're going to have to factor in any power supply cables to this. And it's great that we're not going to have to use power supply screws. We've got these 2 captive thumb screws sitting at the back, so once we've installed our power supply, all we're going to do is tighten these up to hold it in place. So what I want to do now is give you a closer look at the build I've put together in the case. In terms of our temperatures, our Ryzen 7 9700X idled at 41 degrees and reached a maximum of 66 degrees during a 10-minute idle 64 stability test. The Gigabyte Eagle 5070 idled at 28 degrees and reached a maximum of 65 degrees under load. In terms of noise, we had average noise levels of 32 decibels at idle and 35 decibels under load. So in terms of building the case, given this case is quite large and you've got really good access from the front and the side, I didn't really run into an awful lot of problems during the build. The main issue was trying to install extra Corsair fans at the bottom. So I had no issues at all installing 2 fans onto the power supply shroud, but I did run into a number of issues trying to install a fan at the bottom. So the first issue was the cable length that comes with these fans is actually quite short. I wasn't able to route it around the back of the case like I had intended. So the only way it was going to reach between the fans and the power supply shroud and that bottom fan was leaving the cable running directly in the main body of the case. So not ideal but workable, but I then ran into more problems when I tried to secure that fan to the bottom of the case. With the connector facing toward the side, even though there is a little cutout in there for connectors, I wasn't able to get the fan to line up with the screw holes at the bottom. So I let Corsair know about the issues I had with installing fans, and they informed me that they did offer longer fan cables that could be purchased as an optional extra. So the standard fan cables are 20 centimeters long, but in the IIO box I did find an additional cable that was 30 centimeters long. So I decided to have a think and see, was there any way I could install these fans using this additional 30 centimeter long cable. So with the fan installed in the same orientation as the fans on the power supply shroud, we do have one port on the side of the fans that we can access. We've already shown that you can't plug anything into this port here. So the only way this was going to work is if this fan was at the end of our daisy chain. So using the 30 centimeter cable, I was able to daisy chain the fans in the power supply shroud. So I think that looks reasonably tidy, and I don't think you can really notice that white cable running along with our other front panel connectors. So the reason I was finding it so difficult before is I was trying to enter and exit this fan, and that does make sense. You're going from the fans here, and it does make sense to plug into these fans here. But because we've only got one port in this orientation, it does work if you have this fan coming in at the end of the daisy chain. So in terms of how I've connected the fans up, I'm using that longer 30 centimeter cable to connect up to the fans on the power supply shroud. These two fans are obviously connected together. I'm then using the long 60 centimeter cable that comes with our AIO to join into this side of the fans. The cable then goes round the back and into this side of the fans on our AIO. These fans are all daisy chained together. And then I've got one of the short 20 centimeter cables running from this side of the fans on the radiator into our side mounted fans. Then from the other end of our side mounted fans, we've got the original fan cable, and it runs all the way up into our iCUE link hub. So I know I have spent a long time talking about how to add additional fans into the build, and many of you won't want to do this, but I really struggled with this during the build guide, and this is a solution that works without having to buy any extra cables. You're using the cables that come with the fans, the cables that come with the case, and the cables that come with the IO, and if you follow this guide, you'll be able to get them all up and working. The only other thing you're going to want to be careful with is if you do plan to route your tubes towards the back of the case like I have done here, and the reason for that, with the tempered glass in the front and the side, is going to give you a much better look in without tubes running to the front of the case. You're just going to have to be careful. I don't think you're going to be able to fit a rear fan in behind it. If you're really keen on having a rear fan, you are probably going to want to run those tubes towards the front of the case, but it's not going to look as good when you look in from the front and side. The only other thing to be careful of is when removing the plastic from the case. My peel was an absolute failure and the tempered glass panel almost fell off the case. So I would recommend putting a hand on the panel while you're removing the plastic. So moving on to the things I liked about the case, and the first thing I like about this case is the aesthetics. It's absolutely gorgeous with that single piece of tempered glass on the front and the side, and you get a lovely view into your build. I also really liked a few of the simple touches that Corsair have done with this case. So the captive thumb screws at the back for securing your power supply, meaning you don't need to use screws. And I thought the little magnetic cable cover to the right hand side of the motherboard, being so simple but really made a big improvement to the aesthetics at the front. So moving on to the things I didn't like about the case, and the first I'm not keen about is the fact that there is no mesh integrated into the case's top panel or no optional dust filter to insert. And I know most people don't like having dust filters at the top of the case because you're going to have it set to exhaust and it's going to impair airflow. That's absolutely fine when your PC is turned on and your fans are exhausting air out the top. There's no chance of dust coming in. But the problem is, unless you're going to run your PC 24 hours a day, when you turn it off, having such large cutouts at the top of the case, it is going to be possible for dust to get in through your fans and into your build. And I would like to have seen some integrated mesh or an optional dust filter at the top. So now we reach the stage in the review where I need to tell you, should you go out and pick up this case? And I think for me, the biggest problem with this case is the price at almost $260 for this top of the line version with the iCUE Link hub. I do think that is expensive. I think really the only reason you're going to do this if you're really committed to going down the Corsair iCUE Link ecosystem. But even if you are planning on doing this, you're definitely going to want to pick up one of their IOs that comes with the iCUE Link hub. So the fact that you've got a second iCUE Link hub pre-installed in the case is probably something that you're not going to need. So what about the cheaper version of the case that comes with 3 standard ARGB reverse blade fans on the side for $190? Well, for $70 less, I do think that offers better value for money. And if you're going to be getting a Corsair AIO, it's probably going to come with the iCUE Link hub. The only issue is you're not going to be able to plug those fans into that hub and control them using iCUE. But if you're okay with that, I do think that offers slightly better value for money. If you do want to do a build in this case, I have made a full step-by-step PC build guide in it, and you'll find a link to that video in the description. And if you have enjoyed this case review, please remember to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button as well.